There's a moment when everything shifts, when you catch her studying you with those calculating eyes, when her silence carries more weight than her words ever did, when you realize the game was never what you thought it was. Most men never see it coming. They mistake the surface for the depth, the performance for the person, the test for the prize. But 24 centuries ago, a philosopher walked through Athens asking questions that would shatter every comfortable lie. Questions that revealed something so unsettling about human nature that they killed him for it. His name was Socrates. And what he discovered about the dance between masculine and feminine energy remains the most dangerous knowledge a man can possess, because once you see it, you can never go back to sleep. Listen carefully. The ancient Greeks understood something we've forgotten. They knew that wisdom isn't about having answers, it's about asking the right questions. And the most important question a man can ask isn't, "How do I win her?" It's, "Why do I need to?" Think about it. When did you last examine the hunger that drives you toward her approval? When did you question the desperation that makes you twist yourself into shapes that barely resemble who you are? Socrates would have called this the unexamined desire, the most dangerous force in a man's life. Here's what he observed. Men are builders by nature. They think in terms of legacy, structure, permanence. They want to create something that outlasts them. But women are selectors. They evaluate, test, adapt. They don't build. They choose what's worth preserving. This isn't judgment. It's design. Understanding this changes everything. Because when you approach her as a builder seeking validation from a selector, you've already lost. You're asking her to approve of your foundation while standing on quicksand. The philosopher saw men around him making the same mistake repeatedly. They confused attraction with admiration, desire with devotion. They thought if they could just be impressive enough, charming enough, devoted enough, she would choose them permanently. But selection doesn't work that way. A selector evaluates constantly. Every interaction is data. Every response is information. Every weakness you reveal gets catalogued. Not maliciously, instinctively. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to determine if you're solid ground or shifting sand. Most modern men are shifting sand disguised as mountains. They present strength but operate from neediness. They speak of leadership while seeking permission. They claim independence while being enslaved by her moods, her approval, her presence, or absence. The ancient mind understood something profound. True power comes from being unmovable at your core. Not rigid, unmovable. Like a mountain that remains itself, whether the weather is calm or stormy. When Socrates spoke of self-knowledge, he meant this. Know your patterns. Know your weaknesses. Know what drives you beneath the surface stories you tell yourself. Because she already knows. Women possess an almost supernatural ability to sense incongruence. They can feel when your confidence is performance, when your strength is compensation, when your leadership is really just a desperate attempt to avoid being abandoned. This terrifies most men. So they do one of two things. They either try to hide their insecurity deeper, or they surrender completely and hope vulnerability will save them. Both strategies fail for the same reason. They're still seeking external validation for internal problems. The philosopher's path is different. It requires something most men aren't willing to do. Stop seeking her approval and start seeking your own wholeness. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming complete. A complete man doesn't need her to feel worthy. He doesn't need her attention to feel valuable. He doesn't need her presence to feel alive. But here's the paradox that drives men crazy. The moment you stop needing her validation is often the moment you become worthy of her selection. Because what she's really evaluating isn't your resume or your performance. She's evaluating your center of gravity. Is it internal or external? Are you a man with his own mission who might invite her to join, or are you a satellite looking for a planet to orbit? The difference determines everything. Watch how this plays out in real life. The man who texts constantly, who analyzes every interaction, who reshapes himself based on her responses, he thinks he's being attentive. She experiences him as needy. The man who has something compelling going on in his life, who enjoys her company but doesn't require it, who remains consistent regardless of her moods. He thinks he's being distant. She experiences him as intriguing. Why? Because consistency signals strength. Neediness signals weakness. And despite what modern culture tells you, selection is still primarily based on perceived strength. Not physical strength, though that matters. Not financial strength, though that helps. Core strength, the strength that comes from knowing who you are when nobody's watching. The strength that remains stable under pressure. Socrates demonstrated this perfectly. When Athens turned against him, when they offered him exile instead of death, when they begged him to compromise his principles for survival, he remained unmoved. Not because he was stubborn, because he was clear. Clarity is the rarest and most attractive quality a man can possess. Most men live in fog, confused about their desires, unclear about their values, uncertain about their direction. Clarity cuts through all of that. It's magnetic because it's so rare. But achieving clarity requires something painful: honest self-examination. Looking at your patterns without justifying them. Acknowledging your weaknesses without being defined by them. Understanding your motivations without being enslaved by them. This is the work most men avoid. It's easier to blame her for being complicated than to acknowledge you're approaching the situation with the wrong framework entirely. She's not complicated. She's consistent. She consistently selects for strength and rejects weakness. She consistently values authenticity over performance. She consistently chooses the man who seems complete over the one who seems hungry. Once you understand this, everything becomes simpler. You stop trying to impress and start trying to improve. You stop performing strength and start building it. You stop seeking her approval and start earning your own respect. And something interesting happens. The less you need her validation, the more intriguing you become. The more solid your foundation, the safer she feels around you. The clearer your direction, the more likely she is to want to walk beside you. This is the ancient wisdom hidden in plain sight. The secret that turned a simple philosopher into one of history's most influential figures. He understood that true power, the kind that attracts rather than repels, that inspires rather than intimidates, comes from being so grounded in your own truth that external circumstances cannot shake you. Consider this carefully. Every interaction with her is revealing something about your internal state. Are you seeking or are you sharing? Are you hungry or are you nourished? Are you performing or are you being? The hungry man performs. He calculates every word, every gesture, every response. He's constantly trying to figure out what she wants to hear, what version of himself she prefers, what persona will keep her interested. The nourished man shares. He speaks from authenticity rather than strategy. He responds from his center rather than his fears. He remains consistent because he knows who he is beneath the surface. She can sense this difference immediately. It's written in your posture, your pace, your presence. It's reflected in how you handle silence, how you respond to her tests, how you carry yourself when she's not around. The performing man becomes exhausting, to himself and to her. The authentic man becomes magnetic. But here's what most men miss. Authenticity isn't about revealing everything. It's about being genuine in what you do reveal. It's about operating from your truth rather than from your fears. This requires something most men have never developed: a relationship with themselves that's independent of external validation. When you have that relationship, when you know your worth without needing others to confirm it, everything changes. You stop trying to convince her and start simply being yourself. You stop seeking her approval and start earning your own respect. And paradoxically, this is when you become most attractive. Not because you're trying to be, but because you're no longer trying not to be rejected. The philosopher's final lesson is this: the man who needs nothing from her has everything to offer her. The man who seeks everything from her has nothing real to give. That's the man she's really looking for. Not the one who promises never to leave, but the one who clearly could, yet chooses to stay. The difference is everything.